I'm going to pass over to Stefan, who's going to lead the discussion for the community surveys.
Okay, so we are back with this last community survey session. And so first, thank you for all the contributions that we had during the first two sessions. And I will try to summarize what has been shown. And then we will open the discussion. And we would like to hear from the community what a community survey should be and how we should put this community survey in place. As we have heard here during these 2 days, CFHT is a very predictive 4-meter class telescope, and this is extremely exciting. So there are many reasons for the efficiency of the CFHT, 100% service mode, efficient operations. Megacam, the instruments are pretty unique. So Megacam has a very wide field of view, but a very high image quality, and it's blue sensitive, which makes it quite unique in the competition. VNAO-KAO, the commented with Espadon and Spirou, provide a very unique instrument for spectropolarimetry over a unique coverage, wavelength coverage, and high resolution, 17,000. And we still have WebCam for the bright time with a moderate wide field imaging, and which have a very nice cosmetic, by the way, and good image quality. And we also know very well all these instruments, so they are nicely operated by the team at CFHT, and we know perfectly the performance of the instrument and how to operate them. So all this makes this CFHT telescope very efficient to do current science and to project for future with interesting and competitive science for a 4-meter class telescope. So that's why the board and SAC agree to start to dedicate a large fraction of time for what we call a community survey, a bit inspired by the CFHTLS some time ago, that will start around the end of 27, beginning of 28. The idea, this amount of time is about 800 to 1,400 nights for 4 or 5 years, so which is quite a lot. And the goal is to try to have the largest impact as we can with this 4-meter class telescope and a high legacy value for the future. Ideally, to reduce exchange at the summit and the work on the staff at CFHT will be to use Megacam, potentially in the dark time, and VNAO-KAO. We should be ready at the time when we will start during the bright time. We still keep opportunities for other instruments to be considered in case. So we start a call with a letter of intent to have a return from the community about that mid-2024, and we had several science case, and we also contact the SAC, also contact different communities to suggest them to propose possible surveys with Megacam, essentially. And so that's what we have here during the previous 2 days of this meeting. And so I will briefly summarize what we have seen before. So I will start with a vision of VNAO-KAO. Here we got a very nice and organized community who proposed a survey, large surveys with Amaki. So this was composed of different science cases, basically for exoplanets, stellar science, but also archaeology included. And those surveys are in very good synergy with the space missions that exist or that will come in the future. So I will not go through the different work package because they are listed here. The consortium is large already, so it's about 22 institutes and about 130 researchers. And the total number of nights requests is about 120 per night per semester, so which means about 1,200 nights for the 5 years. What we heard during this talk is that it's not only bright time, but it will be suitable to have a fraction of dark time for time domain construct the consortium is willing to provide also support for the operation at the time. Just need to in the community survey that could be designed with this. So we have the whole package with Peer with Shadow. It was very nice, which was basically what we were expecting from the site perspective. So that's very good. Thank you for the people to have done this effort of gathering and putting science together. So with MegaCam, we are quite far from that for the moment. So we still need to gather a community to set up a major projects with MegaCam. So, and we have here several possible contributions for this community survey. So the first one is a cosmology survey, which will be essentially to do a wide coverage of the sky with medium band imaging, basically to observe the Lyman alpha emitters at high redshift as a target for DAISY2 spectroscopy. So, as you have seen, DAISY is a very efficient instrument, very competitive because they beat all the competition in cosmology so far. And so now they want to push forward to high redshift with Lyman alpha emitters. So they propose to cover 5,000 square degrees up to 25 minutes in depth. And basically, they will do several medium band imaging by covering the G band, basically the blue. And the purpose is to do the bluest band, where CFHT is very efficient and they can less. And to do that, they will need about, if you scale to 7 hours per night, so it will be about 270 nights. We can talk about that. This will give you an idea of number of nights that we will need. So then, in any case, because this is kind of a new partnership, potential new partnership, so there are discussions to be taken by the board about that, and the community can potentially have some opportunity to participate to the DAISY2 science, the whole science case of DAISY2. So this is a board level discussion, I guess. So next is another project which is related to the star formation and the environment from the galactic scale to the large scale structure. So the idea is to do different mapping, so of a specific object in the Milky Way with the H alpha, so to get the star formation, and with neurobands plus some broadbands to be able to remove the continuum of stars. And this will conduct a survey of about 250 nights. The other one is Anubis. Well, I don't know how you pronounce, Stephen. But so this is to complete another new band imaging survey. So we have all the Euclid unions area, which is covered with green as a white footprint. And the idea is to extend closer to the galactic plan the new band coverage. So basically here, it's about, depending on if you want to do all or not, it's about 5,000 to 6,000 square degrees, which will require about 620, assuming 7 hours, which is quite optimistic. 70 to 90 nights. It's fine. You know, it's fine. This will not be the problem for at the end. So it's better. 20 years ago. So news. Okay. Another completely different topic is preparation for LISA, which will be dedicated to the gravitational waves, and basically to have a complete study of the galactic plan with the white dwarf binaries, and where they propose indeed to optimally detect the white dwarf. Combination of colors, broadband colors, UD and R, to detect the white dwarfs and to prepare for potential LISA candidate. And so here, there are many different strategies with different depths, with different coverage. So that leads to a broad range of number of nights that can go from 120 to 600 nights. I don't know what the time they assume is 7 hours or 10. Of life. But that will not be the questions for the moment. And then another different approach is for the TO program, so target of opportunities. Here is to essentially to make a follow-up of the different instruments that will study the explosive events. So there are two different strategies. One which is purely to do the follow-up of the events that will happen. So they require basically 10 nights per year, essentially with MegaCam, but potentially with DuerCam. And also to have some survey mode where they cover some field before any events happen. And this will be about 50 nights per year. So at the end, you end up with a project which is about 300 nights. I assume 5 years for the community survey. The last one is based on the WIRCAM now. And this is the WIRCAM, yes. And here, this is to complete what has been done by UKIRT with USS and the UKIT surveys in the north, to complete with WIRCAM to have a full near-infrared coverage in Y, J, H, and K. So excluding the Euclid area, which will be observed at some point, that means that we end up with a survey of 1750 square degree, and so we will end up with about 270 nights. That's what we had so far as a proposition for the contribution to the community survey. So there is not yet any solar system project involved. And but just taking the full number that we have here, we end up with Lac-à-l'Eau-Claire 1,200 nights, a similar number of nights for MegaCam, a bit more because it's underestimated, so it puts us, it's not equal, and 270 nights for WIRCAM. This is a very high pressure because the maximum time that we wish to allocate it to the community survey is about 1,400 nights over 5 years. So that's a lot. So which shows that there is interest for this community survey. So there are many different science cases that can be explored with this community survey. And so based on that, we can start. We need to think now how to make the best use of CFHT and how to best organize a community around this community survey. So how to proceed? So what we are thinking for the month is to start by building a steering group. The steering group will be in charge to gather and organize the communities around community survey science case that will potentially best serve the CFHT community. Also, this will be because there are many science cases with many different observing strategies. So the steering group will be also in charge to be sure that we adopt the observing modes that are the most efficient for the telescope time. So now the step is to start to build this community steering group. So now the idea is to start to construct this steering group. The idea is to have some nominates and also obviously some volunteers that will be willing to invest time to develop this community survey. So it's for the moment we have just done a call of intent where we get this different answer, and it's not clear what should be the next step. So shall we start a call where people now do a complete detailed answer to this call with the strongest science case as possible and the full estimate of hours and nights that we need. And then the steering committee can start after ranking of those proposals to see what should be the best strategy to build the community survey. Or it can be completely different. So the steering group and the community should be able to do their own work and propose a complete package for the community survey. So that's two different types of approach. that can be done. Are we sure that the community survey serves the best the CFHT community? So this is open question. So do we want to keep a low number up to 800 nights, or to move to the highest 1,400 nights that we have been proposing? So this is also something that we would like to hear from the community. And so to give you an idea about the baseline, the timeline that we can we have in mind. So basically, we are in May, so this is a users meeting. So we wish to form this steering group about the summer this year. Then there are two strategies. Either we start a call where everybody will reply, so we call for the contribution to the community survey. And then the steering committee will take over and will organize this different call to build this community survey package. Or the steering committee get involved immediately and start to organize and gather the community to build the community survey package. So this is basically over a period of 1 year and a half, let's say. So to be sure that early 2027, we have already a solid community survey design. And then, as a CFHT, do we want to have this community survey evaluated by an external reviewer just to consolidate or to confirm the impact that this community survey question mark? And then we need a few months to get organized to prepare the observations, and we can expect to start end of 27, beginning of 28. So that's a rough beginning for this community survey. So we would like to hear your input, and we open the discussion for comments, for your thoughts about this community survey.
Hi, Stefan. Thank you. First of all, a quick comment before I get to the questions. So when you say about going fully to the committee surveys, or that's my opinion, I think it's good to keep some PI ship time, and eventually if it's not filled, and I think it will be, then transfer that time to the community survey, because there is some science that's not going to fit into those community surveys. And we do not want to sacrifice that science, which would be great, just to fulfill the community surveys. When it comes to evaluating the community surveys, again, this is my 2 cents input on this. So when it comes to evaluating the community surveys, so basically you had... What do you mean by community survey? Because the first you presented, there were many sub-work packages. So basically, do you evaluate all of them at once? Because it's not fair for all the work packages just because one of them is actually might be weak, so that all of them will have to pay for that. And the other thing is, for 5 years, do you want to have... Again, these are more questions than answers. I'm sorry for that. Would you evaluate this just once and go on for 5 years, or do you want to reevaluate a couple of years after? And the other thing about I obviously missed the letter of interest. The train has passed. But the point is, for example, if I want to propose, and I actually do have some ideas, it's not that if I want to join in, is it something which is very well organized, structured, or will the community have a platform that will allow us to communicate? As for one of your previous questions, which actually kind of reminded me, and the community science discussions we had this morning, having everything dictated by a steering committee, it's not really to go. It would be nice to have an exchange between the two. At some point, obviously, you cannot have an infinite exchange. You have to set some limits. But again, this is my 2 cents input. Thank you.
Yeah, you want to... So it's open. So I agree with your comments. Anyways, because that's exactly the same questions that we obviously have, and it's true that for the evaluation, you are right. The way Ameriki has been done is nice because the community, so they did what we were expecting. Indeed, that they gather first and try to organize things. And obviously, this is a compilation of our package of science case and so on. But at least they start to scale it all together. And then, because they are doing it all together, they can also see how the observation can be done accordingly to the different work package. So there is a discussions and preparations, which is also what we want for the community survey, is that, people prepare together a strategy for the observation. And this is good, because they will have to face their own issues on scheduling and so on. And this is what we want to have. This is yet not the case for the megacamp. And here, what we really would like is exactly that, indeed, the community gather together and start to propose something around the theme, as I mentioned, or with new theme. So that means that everybody can still join at the moment. It's really open. The different level of preparation for the different talks that we have was completely, it was not homogeneous. So clearly, some people were already prepared, some others just proposed the thoughts, and so new thoughts are welcome. So you're still...
So I have a comment / question as to food for thoughts, let's say. So it's not all. So we started seeing the challenges, let's say, in getting organized, and with the Makibe it would be the same, and within other groups you have people in the community that. So if you take one subfield, you have 1, 2, 3 groups working on that, and they will probably submit, if we were just talking about normal proposals, competing proposals. You go to attack, and then we know what happens. Now we go to a community survey. Some are louder, some are not as loud, some are pushier. No, just a thought time, maybe. And some decide what happens, and others don't. And how do we ensure thought time? How do we ensure that it's fair? It's fair for people that are not the loudest in their community, and may have a very valid science. So what's the mechanism? How do we keep it fair?
And probably need to have some garde-fous.
The garde-fous, guardrails. Interesting garde-fous.
And I think also for me, the steering group should be also well aware about the science going on the different instruments, and should be able to detect this type of risk.
Okay, there are various levels to it, but there's even just defining it. Who gets to ask exactly the question? And I mean, we don't know it is. You can tailor it to your like pet projects, pet things, and exclude others that are very nearby that would maybe define the survey differently. How do we guard against that? It's tough. And it's tough, especially it's tough to spot that if you're not like in the subfield.
Yeah.
And the other that's in the subfield that could explain. But yeah, it's very hard. You need really a careful referee to understand the dynamic, the history between groups, and so on.
I think it's
not easy. I don't have an answer.
It's easy, but for example, one thing is, for example, you take all the past time allocations, check who was involved, who did what, and be sure that they are represented if they want.
If they want, yeah. No, so in that process, there's a process, and there's no one shouting in the room to say, put my proposal in, because we know the process. But here you may or may not, and we probably don't want to have people immediately proposing their sub-projects to be in the room that when we design exactly. But at the same time, they're the best ones to design. So it's not non-trivial.
Yeah. But when you gather a group like you did for Anaki, I mean, there are many people that can
fit for a beer together. But yeah, no, even So it already it's a big group, and even within Amaki, what's the fraction we give to PRV versus K-band versus? And then was it exactly 1/6? Maybe not. Why 1/6 exactly? Who's loud and who will push for 1/4 for one sub-program? And, well, you have to be careful because there are louder people than others.
Anyone first? Okay, maybe it's a question of semantic, but steering groups typically implementing something, and here, do you think like it's more like a federating group, or should we add a S like to separate the instruments? And the question is Astronomy 101. The moon goes around the Earth in 28 days or so, and so it's half gray time. Sorry, dark time in gray time. Should you separate the allocation based on that, and it has a natural selection of instruments?
This should be this has to be discussed. I mean, we don't have an answer. People need to Spiro need to have some dark time to be sure that they can complete some time domain issues, and we should be open, and this should be discussed. We have basically a year, but there will be a buffer of a year. No, it's not a buffer. There will be a year of preparation. That means that people need to discuss. To be the steering group, it's not the role of the SACs to be the steering group.
I believe that history can be of help here, and so I urge you to look at the old SAC report from the period 1999, 2000, 2001, where there was a survey working group, Megacam survey working group, which was tasked to design the survey. And I believe that the Espadon plus Spiro people have built their own survey working group and have come up with a proposal. I think that Jean-Charles is right. We need the same thing for Megacam. And I think that you need to design a survey with Megacam with an envelope of nights and see what are the science case, what are the area, what is the depth. So from the 2000 November report, we urge recommendation 1, we urge the Megacam survey working group to meet as planned in January 2001, and provide during February 2001 a detailed plan including the scientific program, the area of the sky to be covered, the justification for the total number of nights, noting the individual survey program, priorities among scientific goals, observing schedule, and the rationale for merging of the individual survey program into a wider legacy program. So that's exactly what needs to be done here. And basically, you need people to, there are some, made for the intermediate band, people for Pristine, I got an answer during the night. They would be ready to look for what stellar indicator can they gain from these medium bands, and would be really interested. I mean, there are some preliminary study to do. You're describing 4 surveys. Is there any kind of area of overlap or not? You need a working group to put all this together and come back with a survey design between, let's say, 800 and 1200 or 700 and 1400 nights. And then you will have to decide what fraction of each of the survey is implemented between the one and the other. That's the way I see it.
We don't disagree with that.
Nice. I also think, there's a philosophical thing here in terms of, is this a top-down or a bottom-up, right? So I think the thing that makes me nervous about, say, the SAC being the people makes it very sort of top-down. Like, all of us are astronomers, but, we're not the best astronomers in the community or anything like that. They're all out in the community. So I think sort of, the idea of that community survey at least is having something that's a bit more bottom-up, right? And again, if the steering group becomes, I'm just going to do my thing and make sure my thing survives, then those people should be chucked off the steering group because they're not going to be any use, right? So the other thing I would just say on the Megacam side, it's quite diverse, but, it's sort of interesting, right? Insofar as the things that seem to have been talked about, I think, are kind of the very sensible things. It's galactic plane, where the universe is not the same in the north and the south. It's U-band and blue bands, the medium bands and the U-band, which is very much one of the strengths of CFHT. And then it's the other strength of CFHT, which is the Q observing and the cadence. So it's basically cadence in blue bands and areas of sky that are sort of unique to the north, right? And so I think there is some commonalities. Now, of course, the details get very different. But, I think there is something there that can be worked on. But the only way it's going to be worked on effectively is if, it's something like her says, but it is a sort of community-driven, i.e. not the top-down thing. But I think we've heard now that there is definitely a lot of interest and, potential demand. This is, the amount of time eventually to any given work package, if that's how you want to describe it, is going to be significant. And so, if people are motivated enough to think, actually, that payoff is well worth it, then, I'd be hopeful that this can be done. But I agree, it's, you need people who are going to be inclusive and reaching out into the community. Like this isn't sort of the middle of the process, right? Once you have a steering group in place, they sort of start the actual work by coordinating, hopefully, with the community. That's the plan. It might be too idealistical. Please comment.
I think, Hervé, what you're trying to reflect there was, we learned some lessons from when we did this before. And it's a pretty long commitment to say to someone today, join this committee that's going to go until 2030 to run this possible survey that may or may not be something that you end up wanting to do. So I really think you need to set up first some kind of group of people who will design the project, taking input from the community, and then another group that will execute the plan, okay? It's not the same group of people. It's not the same group of skills. It's two separate actions.
Also, just piggybacking off of Etienne's comment, I think that, in terms of the balance between PI and community survey time, and also the implications for that, we need to be quite thoughtful, because if there is a case where within the community survey, maybe there's a sub-community that's a little less represented, a little less vocal, is there a danger of them also not having access to PI time because, the box is checked, we say, okay, they have their time, but then they're not actually able to accomplish their goals. So this is something that we need to be considered quite carefully.
I wanted to get a clarification on the item you said about legacy value. So we saw a lot of things that, while very good science cases, in many cases, there's not any more legacy value than any other program that goes into the CADC for archival purposes, right? So is that serious? Because I don't understand how that'll be evaluated. That's my question. How will that be evaluated?
So one answer to Etienne on the let's not kid ourselves. We won't serve the entire community. So there's gonna be some choice. So first, indeed, in this group, maybe it's a problem, but some people will be louder than others. That's for sure. Let's hope that every science case finds a loud representative that can try to advance things. But at some point, we'll have to make choices.
So with the important caveat that the definition of exactly what you do could be on the more vocal part, let's say the more vocal whoever, in defining the sample, exactly defining. So you see, when you get in the gory detail of target selection and so on, you can bias toward your own interests. And that's not hard, and it's not necessarily obvious, except if you're in a subfield. We have to be very careful about that, I think.
I'm referring to in the legacy design working group. There was an initial design of the very wide that was rejected, and there was a second design, and then the reason for what the very wide was cancelled is because they were planning on 7 hours per night, and we got 5, and we still have 5. No, man, I'm not kidding. That's stupid. Don't use 7. Use 5. You know what our efficiency. I mean, we are trying to raise the efficiency of Megacam for ages. We went from 5.5 during the CFHT now to 5 because of weather losses.
So, and magically 5 hours a night will suddenly appear. It will be stuck at 5. We're not going to go to 7, and it creates a false planning context. So I know that you see it as kind of humorous, but it's not really humorous because it creates these false expectations that things can be done that just can't be done. And so just stick with what's reality, which is a 5-hour night on Megacam. On Esplanade, you can do more. It's true. But on a Megacam, the 5 hours of open shutter time.
So I'm just reading a question online from Michelle Bannister, who writes, I think I read last year. I haven't seen much discussion yet of Neo Surveyor. It has two WISE-like bands who will be doing a time domain survey with a lot of northern coverage, a broad swath focused on the ecliptic from November 2027, so it could really complement. I'll just add that there are a number of ideas that didn't make it to this first cut. So Wes had a bunch, but didn't respond to the initial call for letters of intent or whatever thing, but there are going to be more ideas. So that, I think, addresses one of the issues you raised earlier, is that it's not the end. It's not like we're down selecting from what Stefan presented earlier. There's going to be a call.
And I think there's going to be an engagement, like as in this is not a down, like this isn't a cut. No cuts has been made.
No cuts have been made. No decisions are being made today. The science discussions are going to carry on. And so there needs to be processes in which everybody has the opportunity to make sure their science is advocated for, argued for, thought about, etc. I just really want, there has been no cuts.
But then my question is, how will the decision? I mean, you showed a plot. It's clearly massively over requested nominally already. So, what is the structure for downscoping? Is this steering group going to have the unilateral power to decide which science gets done and which doesn't?
No, but to be sure, it communicate with the community to scale down the project.
Right.
You will have to communicate with the community to scale down the project. So that will, even if you have to cut, that's the community that trusts.
So, that's where the word silent.
So, yeah, if I could just give a little bit of a perspective from my role on the board, and I think I like the idea of this being a grassroots thing. I don't want to be not too top down from the board, but and I think we're at the right stage for where we should be. But nonetheless, I want to just communicate what I would look at, so that maybe just personally, what I would like to see come out of these. I hope we all agree that what we don't want is to take this 1,400 nights and then divide it up amongst as many communities as we can to make everybody happy, and have 10 programs go around the TAC process and get called a community survey. I think we're sort of seeing that now, in my opinion, but that's okay because we're brainstorming. I think one of the ideas of the board advocating for these community surveys was to do something really impactful and unique, which at least naively to me means focusing on one or two really core science ideas and doing something you could not possibly do without something like a community survey, and not trying to please everybody with 10 different pieces. That's just something to keep in mind.
So that can you ask this to others? Sorry.
Sorry, there is a question of what is the definition of the community part of community survey, and part of that definition is that the data is open to the entire community once it's acquired. It's not locked into a particular science team or a particular PI group or LP group. It's open to the community. Someone has to design how that data is taken, and they're going to have science goals that they try to achieve. That doesn't make it a PI program. Okay, it's so open to the community to use the data.
Okay, on that, JJ, I will first start with a quick comment. So what does open mean? Does this mean anyone in the community, there's no going to be any proprietary time? Anyone in the community can access the data and work on it?
Yeah, sure.
That's what it means? Okay, on the other hand, what you were saying in terms of having obviously, these community surveys, at some point it will come at the cost of other science projects that do not fit into these surveys. Obviously, the point here is not to make everyone happy, because that does not exist. So some expression I learned a couple of years ago is that compromise is about having everyone equally unhappy. Therefore, that's what we should be aiming at, to have everyone equally unhappy, because no one is going to be happy anyway. But we do not want someone to be and happier than someone else?
But I guess it was addressed at me because you were looking at me, so I'll answer it. Compromise has its place. It's not obvious to me that coming out of this with a compromise solution that makes everybody unhappy is the right vision. So CFHT is the best 4-meter telescope out there. We've heard this. It is an old telescope. It is a 4-meter telescope. It has old instruments. We don't know what the future is. We didn't have the discussion on what comes after these community surveys. These might be the last thing that CFHT does.
But not.
Or not, but it might be. And so the idea was, does CFHT have a really big thing in it? Something that is going to transform some part of science? Maybe not. And maybe the answer is no. All we can do now are some important but niche things that take advantage of unique capabilities, but they're not, whatever word you want to use. I hope we use this time in doing the brainstorming and collecting these ideas and seeing what wealth of ideas are out there, that maybe we find that big idea that say, we could do this thing that nobody else could do, and we can only do it with 800 nights, and it's going to change this field of astronomy. That, personally, is what I'd say that this was a successful exercise.
I'm just going to reply to you very quickly, and then I will stop talking and pass along the mic. So what you were saying about this might be the last thing that CFHT does. That's true for all telescopes. On Mauna Kea, we don't know what's going to happen. But the point is that, as let's say, the last wish of the last telescope before it disappears, is it to exclude part of the community that does not fit into this, or is it to do as much science as possible, satisfying the community at large? So, yeah, that at some point there is some trade-off here, and some decisions have to be made. So, honestly, you're on the board. I wish you the very best, because I'm sure those decisions are not easy to make. Thanks.
Okay, so maybe as a reality check with respect to this, continuing to please everyone would mean keep 5 instruments. We need to decommission 2 of them because we cannot continue to run with the current budget and the current instrument suite. That's impossible. If you look at the budget, we arrive at 0 way before 2023. So a community survey is a way of trying to simplify the way we run, engage the community also to help into the works and the activities that were up to now carried by CFHT. I suspect that people that are really involved in the community survey will be asked to help into the data processing or the scheduling or things like this. So, don't forget this. This is also, indeed, we are living interesting and dire times, I'm sorry to say. And this is a way to get through complicated water.
I'd like to comment on this. They say shifting the effort to the community. So I'll be talking about NIPS. Okay, sorry, it's a CFHT meeting, but so you all know we have the UDM team with the Swiss colleagues, some French colleagues. We have an instrument on a 3.6 meter in Chile that does PRV work for 40% of the time. So it's comparable in scope, in size to Amaki, more or less, or you could argue, but the order of magnitude, it's only on exoplanets, okay? The order of magnitude, the number of nights is order of Amaki. And it's a lot of work. If you know Lucille Mignon, and you can ask her, she's in Grenoble, about her she's scheduling it. It's a lot of work. We have a babysitter club for people that look at the data that comes in. That's not CFHT. Okay, so we do it in Montreal with grad students meeting every Monday. It's a lot of work, and I'd say it's a tribute to CFHT. It's done more poorly than professional people that have been running a queue forever as CFHT. So we miss CFHT in the NIRPS team, and I'm just warning you about what's coming if we commit, and we're heading toward there. It's an enormous work, done by people that don't have the experience that CFHT has. So you're really great at CFHT, and we could very well miss you if we go fully in that direction. But then I appreciate challenges that you have. I'm not saying that you should do it forever and that the budget will increase, but we should appreciate what's coming if we commit to that.
Thank you. Hervé is showing up the path here. We have 25 years or experience of doing surveys and large programs. And may I suggest that before you move on with setting up any groups, that we learn from lessons from the past and actually revisit everything we've done over the years and collect intel from people who've had, experience who may not be written by now, but say, hey, this works, this didn't work, and we had this idea, and and essentially, what kind of success are we aiming at? Is it engaging the community, or is it getting the greatest scientific success, and so on and so forth? It's like, what clear goals?
That's a difficult. The start is the most difficult. Already here, because we are on the stage. So exactly, do we need a steering group now to start to engage the community and something? Is it best to say the CFHT send a call, and the best will win with the most exciting science, and that's it. And the community has to be proactive, collaborate to make the best science case, and that will be the easiest way. So you put the pressure only on the community, and then we need to have the best proposal. It's much easier. The way we are doing here is kind of, okay, let's try to get the community engaged, but this will be slow. We just have 1 year. So if we propose a call for mid-26, so if you do a call, but we let the community organize themselves. Huh?
That we call for 1 proposal per instrument.
Yes, that can be okay. Best use of the dark, best use of the bright time. I bet you will not make everybody happy, because some people want the dark time when they are doing most of the bright time, and the opposite. So the opposite is a bit less, but so or it can be by instruments.
Can I have a comment? I'm going to cut you. I have a comment. I'm feeling weird because I don't have a question. I have comments. I guess I'm at that point of my career, and now I have comments. My first comment is about just community effort. So I don't know. I'm just echoing Etienne, because I'm also a part of the NIRPS team. It's a lot of work, and I don't know how much the community can put work into these kinds of big surveys. So when you think about the science that you want to do, please think about what's before, what's after, was the data taken correctly? Is it good? Can you do the science? Can you reduce the data? Can you publish? And I'm not sure that we have this strength everywhere in the community. So maybe just to keep in mind. My second comment, we'll keep talking about community, but I think we're missing people, right? We talked about community engagement for like an hour and a half this morning. And when you look at that timeline, it's just us. It should be broader from what we discussed this morning. So I'm a bit sad to see that we are going back to what we were doing in the past and doing it again. And we learned yesterday the sentence. So maybe there would be a way that we could engage with local communities to build the surveys that we want to do. It's not easy. I don't know how to do it. I have to say I don't know. But there might be ways to try to do better, be better, while the lease is being, discussed, so that we can go in a better direction than we are going now. That's it. No other comments for now. Thank you.
An excellent comment.
I just want to follow up on what Jean-Charles said. Lessons learned are an incredibly useful thing to do. Incredibly useful. And so we had the science reports from each of the current key projects, but when you do that, you always talk about what worked and what your successes were. Right? We don't do enough of what the problems were. So I wish we had thought about this a little bit earlier and had each people, each group dedicate a little bit of time to that sort of lessons learned. But maybe we can make up for that by just asking them to do, 1 page lessons learned and get that information back quickly to inform the process going forward.
Yeah, just may I say something about some of us being old timers now, but we're here because we care for a facility which has been very good for careers, and so some extent we come back because we want to be good for the facility and the younger generations that want to use it, and so but to some extent we come with what worked in the past, but things have changed, so now we have to define new roles, but that's what we're trying to do here. Just like how can we help CFHT? And so that's something that I want to keep in mind as we go through this process is always this notion of this telescope, which has been good for us.
Okay. So I think we will set up a doc where people can exchange opinions in the coming months, just to see, but to get comments about what the failure on some other projects, on any type of projects, on the way people were organized. And because from my point of view, we don't have a clear plans to start. So that's why we really want to hear from all of you. But clearly the simplest way will be to say, okay, there will be a big call and the better will win. But this call will include, and it was already the case in the letter of intent, the science, the community, the help for support, because this is critical. So you want to do 200 nights, fine, but provide the support. And if you can't provide the support, you will not get it. So this was already mentioned in the letter of intent. We plan to have all these aspects mentioned, but we can do it as a call, and then the one who will be able to fit the different criteria will win. So it's here we try to get more on the fact that we want the community itself to get ready, so we don't have to dictate what should be the best science. This should come from you, from the community, and so it's a different start for this community survey, so I have no answer yet on how to proceed for that.
So I have a question to the big proposal. The name cannot print in my mind.
Right?
What fraction of the Spirou plus Espadon community does it represent?
Okay, I won't give a hard number. It's most of the community with, for all sorts of reasons, different levels of involvement and different levels of not being necessarily included but yeah, I think it represents, I'd say 80% maybe of science cases. And, but we need better reach and better, what I said earlier, coordination and inclusiveness of that 80% of, let's say, science topics, maybe by order of magnitude. I'd say 80% of topics, let's say, of Spirou have been represented. So there were Spirou projects outside of these teams. But the good majority of teams are represented. But then the caveats I mentioned earlier.
Can I complete?
Yeah, complete, please. Yes, maybe go back.
Yeah, I don't know if you hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Just wanted to say that keep in mind that when OKAO is one observation, 1 star. So if we want to be even more inclusive, but we are already gathering most of the Espadon and Spirou communities. But the more we add and the more time we will request, because it's 1 additional stellar sample, so it's additional nights. So this is a compromise to find again.
So Claire, that was my second question. I mean, what was presented is already a good compromise that is palatable to the 80% of the community that is represented. Or is it something that, or is that, like Etienne was saying, there are still the possibility of the louder voices to tweak the sample in their direction, etc. So what, and do you have mechanism inside your collaboration to deal with that?
Well, the mechanism will be discussion, but that won't be easy because, it's already a compromise that we achieved for the letter of intent, just not to request 200% of the time because that's not acceptable. So it's already a compromise, and yes, we could definitely go for more because there is really a need to cover different types of stars, and this is time domain, so we need multiple epochs, and that's very time demanding.
And so if we are forced to reduce the time allocated to Amaki compared to the one we propose, so what will be the process, internal process for the people in Amaki to rediscuss and said, okay, we need to compare to half of the time we have requested. So how you...
I think it's both internal and external.
Would you like to have an external people or external groups that tell you what to do, or are you willing to do the effort to reduce and be sure that everybody is engaged inside the key community?
Well, I think it's necessary to have external reports. Otherwise, we're just sharing. We're just sharing the community too much.
So I've been wondering. Now it's just Claire, you can see me, but I'm the end of the room. Okay, I've been wondering how we should prioritize. I'm not saying cut, but let's say prioritize things. Yeah. I'd go with the uniqueness of two things. Where are we the best in the world? So I'll please people that are not exactly in my field. Hot star spectropolarimetry. Espadon is just in its own league. K-band, I'm thinking Nick Cowan, K-band spectroscopy, with fiber fed, what does Jen know? So we're pretty much alone. So I'd go with the being alone in the field, where 5 years of commitment, and you don't have to fight every single semester just with your proposal, makes a huge difference. I'm thinking, if you want to do from Gaia PRV follow-up and your orbit is a decade long, you don't want to come back every semester. So there's a strong commitment. So I'd go with the uniqueness of the science of that sub-project and the unique use of the 5 years, basically. So yeah, that will be not fun for some subfield, but that's
just wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say about the DESI situation. We heard about DESI as a cosmology instrument, but it's also taken spectra of, there are 4 million stellar spectra in the data release 1. There will be over 20 million in the final. And joining the DESI project would involve joining DESI 1 and DESI extension, as well as DESI 2. So that includes most of the pristine targets already. So they're already on disk. So yeah, maybe we should talk. And I understand that a number of seats is not a very community kind of, trade-off. That's not something that naturally has a broad payoff to the community. So if that is a major, block, a sticking point that prevents that from being acceptable to the community, then I think it's something that we can try to discuss with the DESI leadership and come up with a different model of collaboration. This imaging it's very important for DESI 2 happening. So it's really, it's a strong bargaining chip as far as getting involved and, getting science out of involvement with the DESI 2 project and DESI project. So I think there's, we have leverage there. So it's something that if the community, it sounds like people weren't really thrilled with 15 plus 15 seats. So that, that is just the starting point of possible things that could come out of that collaboration between projects. Thank you.
And
I apologize for using 10 hours per night.
And this is also DESI is kind of a starting point. It's still a 4-meter class telescope. So, but when we will have a massive spectroscopic surveys with 10-meter class telescope, those targets will be also of interest to be redone.
I just want to add one point. We have this main survey, but we have also the possibility to have secondary targets, which represent a lot, especially for the bright time. So there is also this possibility. And I think that if you participate to this program, it's not just to DESI 2, it's also to DESI. So it can be started now, I mean.
Yes, so we need to... JJ?
Yeah, it's just a point about this community survey aspect and the data being accessible to everyone. And within the community, it means more than just that the files are accessible, right? It means the actual data is in a format that is usable by a scientist to do something with. So catalogs or reduced spectra or velocities or whatever is appropriate for the particular scientific use. And I think actually going back to this idea of what community do you mean? You can actually produce the data. You can have a component of the work, which is to stick the data into a format that has utility to the non-astronomy members of the communities that we are interacting with. And then this becomes not just data for us as scientists to use, but things for others to learn from or to explore, or to get to know the universe that they live in through interfaces that we would develop in exchange for the fact that we have access to the site on Mauna Kea and in partnership with people who might want that. So there is an opportunity to extend the idea of what community means. But even within our own community, we have to be clear that just producing some observations and sticking them on a disk somewhere, that is not a community survey. That is a very difficult thing. It has to be available in a usable way.
Stephanie, and then after we will have Barry to stop.
Okay, thank you. So I like Etienne's point also about what's, the best in the world. And I feel like as what we hear from the outside is the blue side. I know you didn't mention this. I just wanted to be on the record also in writing. I don't know if Alan's still taking notes over there. And I wanted to also share some kind of lessons learned from DESI because of during that project since the very early days in the imaging. And then, so there's a dark time component and a bright time component. But then there is some cross-pollination between the two. For example, in the bright time for galaxies, they need to make sure of the calibration. So they sometimes put some of it in a dark time. So there's some, dark time kind of borrowed for the bright time program in that sense. And I think that's been a useful kind of aspect, not to feel that it's very rigid. The other aspect, well, Christophe already mentioned it, but I want to mention the secondary fiber program. This has been great because this is kind of open. The call was for the internal DESI community, but then we can grow the community with people here, depending on how things go. But this allows to really maximize the scientific impact because it really can reach any kind of science topics. So that aspect, I think. And I don't know if any of that can be ported to the new community survey here too. So I don't know, maybe for imaging it's less obvious, but I don't know. I feel like there's lots of different ways that things can still be combined.
So I think so we have to stop because we are 15 minutes late. So thank you for all the comments because that was really the idea to have this type of brainstorming. We are completely open and we want to do it with you. So no way there will be no top-down decisions. And we see that it's difficult, and especially the start, because we need to start well. So I think we will take a bit of time to discuss with you. So we will set up a page where people can have this exchange, and I think it will be useful. And then we will come back to you, and we hope we will do the best that will accommodate all the community, most of the community. And all the CFHT community. Okay, thank you all for your participation.